Hello, everyone, and welcome to AVPN's first South Asia Impact Capital Festival. I am Natasha Rinja, Product Manager Capital Mobilization at AVPN, and I am your MC for this session. Very delighted to have you join us today. For those of you who do not know about AVPN, we are a network of funders and resource providers with over 600 members across 32 markets. Our mission is to move more capital towards impact in Asia by providing social investors like yourselves opportunities to connect with key stakeholders across various sectors and markets, to learn from one another and to find opportunities for action. We are also sharing highlights of our day life on Twitter, so don't forget to share your experience with us by using the hashtags AVPN South Asia 2021 and hashtag social impact. Throughout this month, the festival has been spotlighting best practices and solutions that AVPN members are delivering across India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. These sessions have and will address issues ranging from healthcare, livelihoods, climate action, and education, which are of particular urgency for the sub-region today. A few housekeeping announcements before moving to the program. If you have any questions for your speakers in relation to the session, we will be holding a Q&A session at the end, so do stay with us till then. Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A pod, and we will convey these questions to our speakers. Due to time constraints, the speakers may not be able to respond to all your questions. To download any session resources, please click on the download icon in the agenda page beside the session's title. To continue chatting with your speakers and fellow delegates in this session, please make full use of the messaging function or the event feed in the platform. Finally, please note that this session will be recorded and you will be able to access the recordings after the festival. I would now like to introduce your moderator for the session, Sonali Khan, Managing Director, Sesame Workshop India, and also your speakers for the session, Sampath Kumar, Commissioner and Secretary to Health and Family Welfare Department, Government of Meghalaya, Salim Khan, Country Director, India British Asian Trust, Nandita Raval, Director, Kaivalya Education Foundation, Shruti Mishra, Lead Early Childhood Care and Education HCL Foundation, and Sukna Soni, Senior Manager, Content and Curriculum, Sesame Workshop India. Sonali, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Welcome, my fellow speakers and listeners on this session, which is really close to all our hearts, those who are speaking on this panel particularly, reinventing foundational learning for better educational outcomes. Next slide, please. We all know that even before the impact of COVID-19 was being analyzed, researched, there was already a learning crisis in the education system. This has only further been exacerbated by COVID-19. The World Bank data had already been speaking about the fact that 54% of children in India had not achieved minimum proficiency level at the end of primary school. When we look at children who were, say, for example, at grade 1 on March 2020, and now in March 21, they are going to enter the next grade, they have lost not only learning that was due to them in the last academic year, but many of them have forgotten what they had learned in the previous year. Some alarming data has just been released by a study by Azim Premji University as recently as January of 2021, where they have really found out that nearly 92% of the children surveyed had forgotten one basic concept in language and in mathematics. So children have not just lost an academic year, but they have also forgotten what they had learned. And this is really required to build this foundation is required to build on as we move into higher grades. Next slide, please. Another thing that really, in which we are trying to have this conversation is that understanding that not all children were affected equally by the lockdown, by the pandemic and school closure. Some children were more advantaged, were able to get resources online, but the digital divide has prevented many children from accessing learning, effective learning. So that's first big challenge. Then one must really understand that along with this are coming several other issues that we will have to address. And one of the bigger challenges is policy level focus on early childhood care and education. I think the purpose of this panel, really, the deep dive for what we are trying to do, is really bringing attention to this fact. Because as we look at 2021, a lot of attention again is being given to older children, because the assumption is that they are reaching either a board exam or now they're going to leave school, so prepare them for life. But what is happening with children in preschools and primary schools is, if we are not giving them adequate attention to build their foundational learning, then they are going to really have a setback when they move to higher grades. So more attention needs to be made to this age group. And I think some of the discussion today is, how do we bring attention to these issues? What are the solutions that we have to offer, both in terms of curricula, in terms of program design, deployment, in terms of bringing both human capital and financial capital to trying and solving this quite a large problem that is staring us in our face. So with that, I will actually now introduce a set of questions that we, next slide please, I will not go through all these questions really. This is for you all to look at, which cover a lot of issues that are facing us. And hopefully this panel will try and take up some of these questions and hopefully provide some solutions and a direction ahead. The questions cover a lot of issues which range from, looking at issues around student dropout, learning recovery, more importantly, as children come back to school, the kind of stress they have been facing, looking at the socio-emotional well-being, looking at a holistic development of children. Where will this find its place in our thinking for children? As we all know, we will be trying to catch up. In that catch-up game, are we going to take care of children and their needs? What's going to be that focus? I think these are some of the questions as educators, as policymakers, as financiers, we really need to look at, and then look for answers and solutions to really help the children as we move forward. So with that, now I will actually introduce you to the panel. I have some really eminent speakers with me, and I really thank them for joining this panel this evening. To introduce the panelists, is first Mr. Sampath Kumar. He's already been really introduced as the CEO of the Meghalaya Basin Development Authority, a flagship initiative of the state government of Meghalaya. But along with that, Mr. Sampath Kumar actually holds several very key portfolios, which include community and rural development, health and family welfare, social welfare, and the Department of Program Implementation and Evaluation Department. He recently also took over the health department. We as SESME have a deep partnership with the ICDS of Meghalaya, and I really deeply thank Mr. Sampath Kumar for joining us, and also the partnership that we share with him and the state. Next is Mr. Salim Khan. He is the India Director for British Asian Trust. And for more than 2 decades, his experience spans across the private sector and the nonprofit sector. Over the last 2 years at the British Asian Trust, Salim has helped develop the Trust's identity and vision for India, and has been a crucial driver of the development of innovative social finance mechanisms. Before joining that, he was working as a chief executive of United Way of India. Next, we have Nandita Raval, who has 29 years of experience, and really can give us deep insight, given her background from actually being a principal to a policy consultant. She has classroom expertise. She has expertise on improving learning outcomes. Nandita Ben actually currently leads the Center of Excellence for Demo Schools at the Foundational Learning, a Niti Aayog initiative to convert 5,000 children in aspirational districts into demonstration schools and equip Anganwadis in the clusters with quality education products, providing support for learning and development and strategic planning and implementation. Next is Shruti Mishra. Thank you, Shruti, another partner. Shruti is, an ECCE lead at HCL Foundation with 17 years of experience in this space of early childhood care and development, and has performed multiple roles across diverse work setups. An early childhood development expert and professional by passion, she leads this vertical along with disaster risk reduction at HCL Foundation, the CSR arm of HCL Technologies. Last but not the least is Sukhna Sahni, who is a senior manager at Sesame Workshop India. At Sesame, of course, she heads the curriculum vertical and does associated related work around planning, designing programs, conceptualizing the curriculum. But more importantly, she has a master's in human development and childhood studies from Delhi University, has an in-depth contextual and pedagogical knowledge on the subject. Before this, Sukhna was an assistant professor at Delhi University, having taught undergraduate students for over 4 years. So we have a bunch of experts on this panel today. And so I will, with no more further ado, jump into the questions. And my first question is for Shruti. Shruti, I know we are very passionate about early childhood education, foundational learning, and we have been talking about this quite a lot. But in my early conversation with you, one of the key things that we discussed was that this is not something that is of wider awareness. There is no wider awareness around this. And as such, in the current landscape, there are varied views around this. So my first question to you is that your understanding of the landscape and just looking at the landscape about the level of impact on children's education due to COVID, lockdown and school closures, in your just an understanding of the landscape.
Sure. Thank you, Sonali. Thank you for such a lovely and such a strong base. So I think half of my, whatever I'm trying to convince is done. So I'll quickly take the cue from you that yes, COVID-19 has impacted education and the impact is huge. My worst fear is that at this point in time, we are also not even sure about what kind of an intergenerational impact it will have, because we haven't started, taking account of that. Responding to your question, like how much aware or what kind of a landscape is there in terms of our awareness, in terms of our acknowledgement regarding foundational years and this COVID and the closure of schools and its larger impact on learning, my answer is mixed. I acknowledge that children are losing on education, and I also believe that all key stakeholders, including government, are aware of that. And that's the reason as why everybody is advocating and supporting reopening of these learning spaces. And by learning spaces, I include the early learning centers also along with schools. The second part is, did we prioritize it enough along with other immediate needs like health and nutrition? Then my answer will be no. But the background of it is also that we need to acknowledge that this prioritization of one single vertical is not a COVID phenomenon. It was there in the past also. So before COVID also, we have seen standalone programs and interventions which were not that effective. As children, we all know have a multi-dimensional need at any given point in time. So we require different services as per their developmental needs. Now coming to one of my favorite vertical, nutrition and health. I do acknowledge and I do believe that nutrition and health have been prioritized. I do believe that these verticals are very crucial, keeping in mind half of our children are malnourished in this country. But my question is, and my concern is, can this only vertical help us in bringing the required change or the impact on when we talk about the larger things like development or the learning? So maybe one vertical is not sufficient. Maybe the kind of awareness we have is a positive thing, is a strength, but are we there in terms of our prioritization? I am not comfortable with that. Yes, saying yes to that. My second point is, and which is equally important, is that this prioritization or picking up of one vertical over other vertical, if I can say so, has not only been done vertically, it has been done horizontally also. So on one level, when we are saying that education is not seen as an approach for the well-being of children, especially during COVID. Secondly, within the same thing, we have also the larger education vertical. We were not able to understand different learning needs for different age cohort. So it's very interesting to see that we were talking a lot about distance mode of learning, use of technology, and rightly so. But the other reality was we were not making enough noise on our young children, young learners. And along with the young learners in terms of age, I'm saying that there were other excluded groups, basis different socio-economic reasons. So I have seen that during COVID, within the vertical, there was an acceptance for, acceptance or prioritization of one specific age cohort as against another. Now, what happened to that is young children missed and are even now are missing out the critical support, which is needed at the time when 90% of brain development is happening. So since learning and development are cumulative and we cannot isolate the two, we are missing out many foundational skills, which will definitely have a greater impact, not only at child's level, but also at the national level. So I really don't know post-COVID, keeping in mind the same scenario, same kind of a commitment, whether we can even meet the SDG 4 indicators. Everybody coming out and supporting children during COVID was commendable. We also did it through our foundation. But I personally think it would have made more sense. It would have made a greater impact if the whole intervention or if the whole support was done in a more integrated and comprehensive manner rather than just on service-based approach. So that's my basic understanding upon the whole, landscape or the awareness and how it has floated down in terms of services, in terms of priorities. And we also need to acknowledge that till now, although India is very high in, is a very high country in terms of disasters and emergencies, still we don't consider education as one of the emergency requirement or emergency needs. So it is still not coming under the survival thing. So I think that's the whole mindset, and that's what floated during COVID, a pandemic for which nobody was ready. So whatever came out in terms of interventions came out due to our history of how we worked, how we felt, our level of understanding, and a kind of a vision which we were thinking. And I think having said that, we also I think the biggest takeaway for me is during this COVID phase, we have seen that education was largely about academic rather than about learning and development. Until the time we break that, I think many things like foundational learning, early learning, they will still remain a dream, and we might not be able to perform that well.
Thank you, Shruti. Actually, you've made some really tough points that need follow up. And I think when I was reading that report by the Azim Premji University, one of the things parents were saying that if weddings have started and other kinds of functions have started, why aren't the schools opening up? Why can't kids go back? So, I mean, that's of course another point. But yes, we will come back on the question of, prioritizing issues and the intersectionality of, say, health and education. And, we have a question for Mr. Sampath Kumar a little later in the discussion. But I'll now turn to Sukhna. Keeping in mind, what Shruti just laid out, and I think what we were talking about in the sense of the context, given the loss of in-classroom instruction and the unsure quality of home-based support teaching, what are the things that educationists, those who are designing curriculum will have to keep in mind when children come back to school? I know lots of discussions are currently going on about, accelerated programs, different kinds of strategies as children come back. Some are talking about 12-week programs, 3 months programs to help children cope. In your mind as an educationist, and given that, SESME works with children in the age group of 3 to 8, what would be some of those considerations?
Sure. Thank you, Shonali. So, you have spoken, Shruti has spoken about how the various verticals of education, and it's important to focus on the whole child approach. You're talking about health and nutrition. I'll bring in another dimension, which is the social emotional well-being of the children. We already acknowledge that our classrooms are really heterogeneous. There are children coming from all the backgrounds with all the learning, differences in the way they learn, etc. And there's been a huge learning loss. It will, be a very tunneled approach to just say that there is a learning loss in terms of academics. There's been a lot of learning loss when it comes to the social emotional domain as well. Children have lost out on various opportunities for social interaction, meeting with their peers, socializing in the school. They've lost on opportunities of moving around, physical activity, the midday meals, the nutrition part of it that was coming from as a result of going to Anganwadi centers and schools. So overall, when we talk about the loss, it's a very, very broad concept and cannot be limited only to educational or academic or the ABCs or the 1, 2, 3s. Keeping that in mind, I think it would be sort of unfair to pile the entire burden of bridging this loss to a school or an Anganwadi center or to the pedagogy or curriculum. I think we have to take cognizance of the fact that in order to be able to bridge that loss, even to some extent, all of us have to move in tandem, which means the society, the parents, the caregivers, the teachers, everybody, the curriculum, the way the state looks at it, everything has to move in tandem to be able to bridge that loss to a certain extent. And it's going to take its own fair share of time. It is not something that is going to happen overnight or in a cycle of one academic year. I think when we as educationists talk about ECCE and we realize one of the most important principles is to give the child the amount the child can digest. Accelerated learning in that context would mean that you're giving the child way more. The child, like you said, the World Bank report also quotes that not only has the child missed on one academic cycle, but it is also, the child has also forgotten what was done the year previous when the child was in the school or in the educational setup. And keeping that in mind, accelerated learning to me does not sound like something which is going to benefit the child. Putting so much of burden on the children, on the teacher, help. The first prerequisite to any form of learning, along with health and nutrition, would be to restore the child's emotional well-being, which basically means that this child who is coming from a background where he or she has stayed in the house, he probably would be very nervous, hesitant of coming back to school, maybe very anxious, probably has been exposed to some form of abuse or a toxic situation at home, which all of us have been a part of because this was sudden. Nobody was prepared for it. Some more than others have been exposed to a lot of toxic stress. So a prerequisite to even bring back the child to a frame of learning and, progressing on the academic goals would be to restore the social emotional state of the child, to welcome the child in a safe environment, help the child feel safe, secure, wanting to even come to the school or the Anganwadi center for that matter. And then thereafter, you talk about your academic skills and what you have to do about the curriculum, etc. Of course, there are pedagogical approaches that we won't, have to be adopted. They have to be incorporated to be able to bridge that loss to a certain extent. But social emotional well-being is definitely one core pillar or one core area that needs to be prioritized before anything else. Because if the child is not ready emotionally, the child is definitely not progressing anywhere in an academic format. So that is something that we must be cognizant of.
Thank you, Supna. And move on to Nandita. And actually, you've triggered the next question very well to sort of say that, as we are looking at children coming back into the system and dealing with this learning loss, but also the learning system itself has lost a lot of momentum. I was talking to someone earlier and just referencing that things stopped. We've never seen this kind of pause before. So Nandita Ben, as an implementer at Kaivalya Education Foundation, you're working in aspirational districts. You have to deal with this problem head on. Jahan aap kaam kar rahe ho, what are those solutions? What are those innovations that you are thinking of to deal with some of these challenges that are emerging? Jo aapke samne abhi hai, Nandita Ben.
Thank you, Sonali. तो जैसा कि आपने बताया कि हम 28 एस्पिरेशनल डिस्ट्रिक्ट में वर्क कर रहे थे और हमारा जो मॉडल था वहाँ पे हम मिडल मैनेजर की कैपेसिटी बिल्ड करते हुए जा रहे थे। जैसे ही कोविड सिचुएशन हुआ, स्कूल बंद हो गए और बच्चे अपने घर में थे और वो सिचुएशन हमने देखा, तो ये सिचुएशन में सब डरे हुए थे, क्या होगा, बहुत सारा न्यूज आ रहा था, कोविड की सिचुएशन में इतने सारे लोग मर रहे हैं, तो क्या करना है। तो सबसे पहले हमें लगा कि स्कूल बंद होने वाले हैं, कम्युनिटी में बहुत सारा फोकस करना पड़ेगा, बच्चों के साथ हम कैसे जुड़े रहेंगे। तो अभी कम्युनिटी की सबसे पहले नीड क्या है, तो वो डर हटाना और उनको अवेयर करना, उनको तैयार करना कोविड-19 सिचुएशन के लिए। तो सबसे पहले हमने 28 डिस्ट्रिक्ट में सुरक्षित दादा दादी नाना नानी अभियान चलाया, जहाँ पे हम देख रहे थे पूरे वर्ल्ड में किस तरीके से नंबर्स आ रहे हैं, जहाँ पे सीनियर सिटीजन का मृत्युआंक कितना बढ़ रहा था। तो हमने वॉलेंटियर जनरेट किए, पूरा मास जन आंदोलन किया और उसमें हमारे पास 14,000 वॉलेंटियर जुड़े और हमने उनको हम लोग 7 लाख से भी ज्यादा सीनियर सिटीजन तक पहुंचे और हमने उनको अवेयर किया कि किस तरीके से अपने आप को सेफ रखना है, सेफ्टी गाइडलाइन क्या है, वो हम उन तक पहुंचे। जब हम वहां पे पहुंचे तो ऑलरेडी केवलियर का एक नाता वो कम्युनिटी के साथ जुड़ा कि कोई है जो हमारे साथ केयर कर रहे हैं। पहले हम लोग इनकमिंग कॉल करते थे, फिर वापस से उनके सीनियर सिटीजन के कॉल भी आने लगे कि आप हमें समझाओ क्या करना है। तो एक तरीके से रिलेशनशिप बिल्ड हुआ। उसके बाद हमने वापस से, क्योंकि हमारे पास बहुत सारे वॉलेंटियर जुड़ गए थे, यूथ था, उसको भी पता नहीं था कि अभी हमें क्या करना है घर पे बैठे बैठे। तो फिर हमने जैसा कि श्रुति ने पहले कहा कि बच्चों की सबसे पहली नीड है, उस वक्त फाउंडेशनल लर्निंग नहीं था, बच्चे की नीड थी सोशल इमोशनल वेलबींग वाला जो था। तो हमने कैंपेन चलाया, हमने अलग अलग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ पार्टनरशिप किया और हम लोग सील कैंपेन लेके आए, सोशियो इमोशनल एथिकल लर्निंग। और उसमें हमने आर्ट थ्रू सील, स्पोर्ट थ्रू सील, ड्रामा थ्रू सील, किस तरीके से बच्चों के साथ अलग अलग एक्टिविटी हम कर सकते हैं, वो 6 वीक का 40 घंटे का कैंपेन चलाया। वहां पे ऑनलाइन हमारे साथ वॉलेंटियर जुड़े और हम लोगों ने टीचर की मदद से, एसएमसी की मदद से ऑफलाइन वही कम्युनिटी में भी वॉलेंटियर ढूंढे, ताकि बच्चों को सील कैंपेन में ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन किस तरीके से सपोर्ट किया जा सकता है। उसके बाद जो फेज आया जहाँ पे हमने देखा कि अभी तक स्कूल नहीं खुलने वाली है, हर साल बच्चे को 175 डेज इंटू 5 मतलब कि 900 घंटे का इनपुट बच्चे को मिलता है। उसके बाद भी आपने जो अभी नंबर दिखाए कितने परसेंटेज बच्चे हैं उनका स्टूडेंट लर्निंग आउटकम कहाँ पे है, वो पूरा मिस हो गया था। ये सिचुएशन में हमने देखा कि जो इंडिया का डिजिटल एजुकेशन रिपोर्ट है वो भी ये बोल रहा है कि भारत में 100% डिजिटली पॉसिबल है नहीं, क्योंकि वो इंटरनेट असेस नहीं है, हम जहाँ पे काम करते हैं वहाँ पे स्मार्टफोन नहीं है, तो बच्चों तक कैसे पहुंचे। तो हमने वहाँ पे रास्ता अपनाया, हमने वहाँ पे इनोवेशन किया ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग का, वहाँ पे ऑनलाइन एंड ऑफलाइन किस तरीके से हम सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं एंड कम्युनिटी को किस तरीके से हम पूरे ये लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट के साथ जोड़ सकते हैं, जहाँ पे लोकल यूथ, लोकल वॉलंटियर भी है और कोई एक जो है वो दिल्ली से भी यूथ जुट रहा है, वो साथ में मिलके वो बच्चे की जिम्मेदारी किस तरीके से ले रहे हैं। इसमें हमें बहुत सपोर्ट, मतलब ये बहुत ही सक्सेस गया। हमने 5,000 डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन जो स्कूल थे वहां पे उसकी गांव में कम्युनिटी में ये पूरा ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग हम अप्रोच लेके गए। बहुत सारे ऐप है जो फ्री में अलग अलग लैंग्वेज में बच्चों की फाउंडेशन लर्निंग को सपोर्ट करते हैं, उसको हमने लाया और हमने 900 आवर्स का पूरा करिकुलम बनाया और वो हमने स्टार्ट किया। लोकल एनजीओ का भी हमने इसमें सपोर्ट लिया एंड वॉलंटियर जनरेट करके हम लेके गए। उसके अलावा हम लोगों ने चाइल्ड स्पेसिफिक जो नीड है उसका भी कंटेंट जनरेट किया, हमने बहुत सारी पार्टनरशिप की एंड हम लोग आंगनवाड़ी 12,000 प्लस आंगनवाड़ी सेंटर्स के बच्चों तक भी हम वहां तक पहुंचे। तो यही इनोवेशन किया कि अगर एजुकेशन पे भी काम करना है लेकिन हमें बहुत सारे अलग अलग तरीके अपनाने पड़ेंगे।
हाँ जी, हाँ, थैंक यू नंदिता बहन। हमारा भी पार्टनरशिप आपके साथ बहुत ही इफेक्टिव रहा इन रीचिंग एजुकेशनल कंटेंट टू आंगनवाड़ी। रियली अप्रिशिएट दैट कि आप लोगों ने किस तरह से ड्यूरिंग लॉकडाउन कंटिन्यूअस वे से ये प्रोग्राम को जारी रखा है। रियली कुडोस। आई थिंक सुखना वांटेड टू मेक वन कमेंट एज वेल बिफोर आई कम।
आई जस्ट वांट टू ऐड टू व्हाट नंदिता जी जो आपने बोला, हमने भी जब हम सेसमी में हम एकदम से हिट बाय द लॉकडाउन, जो हमने सोचा कि व्हाट डू वी वांट टू डू, बच्चों को हम कैसे पहुंचना चाहते हैं, क्या इंफॉर्मेशन बच्चों और उनके देखभाल कर्ताओं तक पहुंचाना चाहते हैं। एंड वी डिड अ ग्लोबल सर्वे, इंटरनल ग्लोबल सर्वे, जहाँ पे हमने डिफरेंट कंट्रीज के कॉन्टेक्ट समझे एंड वी रियलाइज कि कई चीजों की काफी ओवर मैसेजिंग है ऑलरेडी जो एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, कोविड रिलेटेड, मास्क, हाइजीन एक्सेट्रा। पर जहाँ पे सोशल इमोशनल वेलबींग की बात थी, वहां हम लोग वहां तो पहुंचे ही नहीं थे। अभी हम सिर्फ ग्रैपल कर रहे थे कि कैसे सुरक्षा मेंटेन की जाए। तो जो हमने जो कंटेंट बनाया, वो हमने फोकस करा कि हम सोशल इमोशनल वेलबींग सिर्फ बच्चों की ही नहीं, साथ में उनके देखभाल करताओं की सोशल इमोशनल वेलबींग पे भी फोकस करें। सिंपल स्ट्रैटेजीज कि आप खुद भी अपने लिए टाइम निकालें, इस ऐसे टाइम पे व्हेन एवरीबडी वाज कॉट इन द सेम हाउस, दे वर गोइंग थ्रू अ लॉट ऑफ बर्डन, we realize that it's important to focus on both, on the parents caregivers also, to realize that only जब वो अपने well-being के state of mind में है तभी वो बच्चों तक भी पहुंच पाएंगे। So that is something that we did। और दूसरी चीज जो आपने कहा कि डिजिटल लर्निंग हर जगह नहीं पहुंच पाएगी, we realize that also। जब हम इतने रिसोर्सेज, शॉर्ट फॉर्मेट रिसोर्सेज, लॉन्ग फॉर्मेट रिसोर्सेज, ऑडियो एपिसोड, हमने सब कुछ डिफरेंट टाइप की चीजें ट्राई करी, जो व्हाट्सएप या वेबसाइट के जरिए या फिर रेडियो के जरिए, बट वी रियलाइज कि हम सब तक नहीं पहुंच पाएंगे। तो हमने एक कैंपेन शुरू किया जिसमें हमने किट्स बनाए बच्चों के लिए। ऑब्वियसली वी रियलाइज for children to engage with material in their hand, the joy it gives for that, to hold something, hold a book, hold a learning material, color and have those kind of resources, that cannot be replaced by digital learning। We believe that digital learning will supplement, but it cannot replace the joy। So हमने भी care packs बना के communities में, organizations के जरिए उनको distribute किया और उसको back link करा अपने digital resources से। We used optimize the QR code technology। जो हमने अपने केयर पैक्स बनाए थे उसमें हमने क्यूआर कोड्स डाले, ताकि जिनके पास स्मार्टफोन है, ऑब्वियसली पेटीएम एक्सेट्रा करके सब जानते हैं कि क्यूआर कोड के साथ करना क्या, उसको स्कैन करना है। सो वी यूज दैट, ताकि जिनके पास स्मार्टफोन हो वो और रिसोर्सेज, एडिशनल रिसोर्सेज हमारी माइक्रोसाइट पे जाके, चाहे वो बुक्स हैं, ई बुक्स हैं, या रेडियो एपिसोड्स हैं, ऑडियो एपिसोड्स हैं, वो सब भी देख सके और उसके साथ भी एंगेज कर सके।
So, this is a tough question for you, Salim, because you've just heard Shruti, Sukhna, Nandita speak about some of the, changing landscape. We have sort of contextualized the problem. But even in addressing the problem, now what we are saying, we just cannot focus on numeracy and literacy. There are many more additional issues that we will have to look at. So, keeping all of this in mind, Salim, my question to you is, what will the kinds of innovation that will be required in the funding landscape? In my earlier conversation with you, you said that the traditional ways of funding will have to change. And, we'll have to look at the current scenario, and those kinds of shifts will have to be made. So what do you anticipate will be the response of the donors, and as as British Asian Trust, the kind of challenges you will face in bringing attention of these donors to these kinds of pressing needs? You'll have to turn on your microphone.
Yeah, really sorry. You're absolutely right, Sonali. COVID has certainly challenged the existing development solutions, and the funding requirements have gone up multifold. It is getting us to approach impact problems differently. There is a need to get us to think what needs to change, how we need to do it. Could we try new approaches, leverage new sources of finance to do this? What type of social problems are better suited for which kind of an approach? And through our multiple engagements with potential donors locally, internationally, dialogues with government, what's repeatedly coming out is the need for new innovative forms of funding mechanism. And this is largely driven by the realization that traditional approaches of deploying grants do not offer any certainty of results. And in the current context, with the limited funding that is available, what we need is certainty of delivery of results and successful delivery of outcomes. So large foundations, even CSR funders today, when you talk to them, they're keen on exploring innovative funding vehicles, which offer, one, an opportunity to create long-term sustainable impact, two, and more importantly, get the funding applied on successful delivery of results. And also, what's very, very important right now is the implementing organizations are not in a very good shape right now. So allowing flexibility of funding to implementing partners, allowing them flexibility to utilize the funding without casting them into a mold is absolutely important. And that's the approach that we are taking in our quality education impact bond, which saw some very, very encouraging results in the first 2 years. And Nandita Ben and Kaivalya are one of the implementing partners in that. And she could talk more to this. And currently, governments are extremely keen to explore innovation. They are open for dialogues like never before. And I know we have Mr. Sampath Kumar on the panel. It'll be great to hear from him. But currently, I see this as a big opportunity for private sector to partner with the government, test out new models which have not been tried in the past, which will perhaps influence the way the government deploys funding in future. So that's it. And I'll want to pick up from what Mr. Sampath Kumar would have to say on these. But that's really a big opportunity, a big change, government being open for dialogues, looking at new models, open for innovation. And that's really going to be adding that scale to every work that we're going to pick up going forward.
So, Mr. Sampath Kumar, I'm not going to paraphrase Salim's question. He's asked your question directly, done my job. So I'd request you to respond to, what is the government thinking, and is this an opportunity to innovate?
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Sonali. So thank you, and great listening to all the distinguished panelists. Great learning about your work. But I just like to the question, like I'll start with the question that asked by Mr. Salim. In fact, I have been working in the government for the last 23 years, and in the different portfolios. And also I happened to, check out for 1 year, I went and studied at Harvard. So where, I studied along with Professor Jack Shankoff. Professor Jack Shankoff is the director of Harvard Center for Developing Child. I've taken a course. In fact, I've done a project with him. The amazing learning that what I have learned there is that I think we are missing a huge, opportunity that we had, but we have not been using. So that's like, these Anganwadi services that what the government of India, is implementing for a long period. In fact, it's called ICDS. So what was happening was that, there was not much focus on education. Though you have these Anganwadi centers and across the country, and we have a beautiful infrastructure that has been created, but we have been actually using them mostly as a feeding centers. So what I have, but I would like to definitely endorse with what you said, Ms. Sonali, in the beginning, is that there is not much, awareness, about the potential of this science of early childhood. I think not many policymakers or too many people, in fact, people in general, do not have the kind of, the understanding or the awareness about the potential of this entire early childhood period, that actually provides for everybody. So how actually we can really bring that, holistic development. And suppose like every dollar that you invest during that period actually would give you 16 times the returns when they grow adults. I think there are different, studies have been done. I think Heckman, talks about this, and, different people, in fact, even So I think there is a strong evidence has been generated. I think even in India, I think the evidence is being generated. So only thing is that it is a time that we need to really use this research and evidence about the need for investing during this early childhood period is so important. And that investment should be like a, a holistic investment. What it should cover the education, it should cover health, it should cover nutrition, it should cover socio-emotional support. So it should, in fact, it should even cover the positive parenting, even the social emotional support, not only for the children, even for the caregivers, how actually we are taking care of them. So if we invest in this early childhood period, in fact, it can address even the intergenerational poverty. So definitely, I think that's one point I would like to say. I think the governments, in fact, at least in the state of Meghalaya, so we have recognized this, and we brought a early childhood development policy, and we are also actually, in fact, it has been announced in the last year budget itself, and in fact, we are in the process of setting up of a early childhood development mission, state ECD mission, and a lot of external aided projects are willing to fund it. In fact, we are just like we are talking to a couple of people, and the idea is that how actually we can bring out that integrated development of the children. So that by leveraging the existing institutions, for example, how Anganwadi centers can be expanded their scope. Currently they are delivering only supplementary nutrition program. How actually they can actually deliver ECCE by strengthening them. You need to build the capacities of the Anganwadi workers. We need to actually, in fact, we are coming up with an idea of actually introducing early childhood development graduate volunteers like Teach for India fellows. So we'll have early childhood development, fellows whom actually we are proposing to introduce. So the idea is that leveraging the existing institutions, and also introducing we also bringing the education department, so that the primary schools will really focus on this, so that as Ms. Sonali, you said in the presentation, I think the learning outcomes is the key issue. So governments are largely focused on, creating infrastructure, providing the salaries and, to the teachers, but not much attention is given on the quality of education, on the learning outcomes. So that is another area that, we have been focusing upon, basically this entire ECD idea within the state. What our idea is that to really, invest on every front, from pre-conception stage to the conception stage, and from up to the 80 years, how actually we are going to, provide that support, to the children. And further, actually, we are also planning to set up a state, research center for developing child. So that's again another process. So we have been thinking. So there is and we also actually presented this idea at national level. And at national level, we at Ministry of Women and Child Development Department, they have been actually seeing this one, with a very keen interest. And also they have announced, in fact, if you look at the Government of India has announced a small, initiative. I think they'll be piloting this one at national level. They're calling it Vatsalya program. I think it's part of the budget, of Government of India. So that's that is a work in progress, but definitely I think it requires the attention that is needed. I think we require, more, advocates for this program. I really thank SISME, for partnering with the state of Meghalaya. In fact, you were the one actually who came for the first time, that, we will come and, set up, this entire education system in Anganwadi centers. So thank you for your partnership. And also I would really like to, keenly understand and, work with all of you, all the panelists, who are there. I think we really wanted to learn from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sampath Kumar. We have some time left, but quickly want to have a rapid question to both Shruti and Salim. You've heard Mr. Sampath Kumar say that, there is this requirement to strengthen the system. The Anganwadi, for example, has been a nutrition center more than an education center. We are partnering with them to, do this, but this is required across India. So in terms of, Salim to you, to Shruti to you, how as funders, how as you understand this landscape, would you sort of strategize to sort of address this need? Salim or Shruti, anyone can go first.
Okay, so let me go first. So I'll talk from our experience right now, and when I said earlier, government really keen on opening up a dialogue and trying to see what are the broader issues and where is it that we can test out models. I think the need is to be able to identify either one specific state government, and you've seen in Meghalaya, Sonali, a live example of Mr. Sampath Kumar, who clearly is thinking forward, different, not in the conventional mode. So either identifying one state government, trying to put out some research, learning evidence on the table, and then test out something in a smaller pilot of sort, and then bring out some evidence. Because currently, what and especially we're talking to the center on some skills related interventions. I think the challenge is about breaking the convention or the conventional mode that they have, government has a very specific agenda that has been chartered. Anything outside of that needs to be demonstrated through evidence. And there's the opportunity for private sector to come in, partner, fund. And let me tell you, Sonali, this is the kind of funding that potential funders want to bring to the table. You want to test out something absolutely new. Impact bond is a live example. Today, something that we set out 2 years ago in education impact bond. The government had just given us a buy-in saying you work in, and I can talk for Gujarat. There was education secretary said, do try it, but come to us after 2 years and show us what is the shift that you are able to make. But with that kind of a commitment, when we went to either large foundations, CSR funders, international donors, with that promise, people want to come experiment, and that's the time right now. So I would say testing out smaller pilots, putting out evidence, taking it to the government, or identifying state governments like Meghalaya and others who would be open to test out something like this, working, partnering, and also taking full involvement of the government. That's something which has been unseen of in the past. It's really extrapolated, but Shruti can add.
Thank you, Salim. I think as a representative from HCL Foundation, and we partner with different implementing organizations. So if I look into the the discussion which started with Mr. Sampath and Salim also added, I think 2 points which I would like to raise is from the foundation side, or from somebody who represent a CSR unit. What we have done at our level is we have positioned, and actually we have prioritized pre-primary education and the early cognitive support as a part of our initial emergency investments, and also as a long-term strategy. So this is what we have done programmatically, strategically within the organization, within the foundation. Second thing which we have taken, and that's a very strong and a very strategic move from our side, is we work very closely with government. So most of the time when we work in any district, any state, we go for a MOU. So which means that our total commitment remains with the government. We believe that, by strengthening government, you can achieve much more than what you can achieve in silos. So our whole support and whole commitment goes to the government programs. And obviously, just like Salim talks about, how important it is to monitor what we are doing, to have hardcore evidence. So this is what we are also promoting through our partnerships, that whenever we are making investments, it should be, and it is based on evidences, what is happening in the field. Along with that, not missing out the flexibility. We need to understand, and I think COVID was our biggest eye-opener, where we said that 1 + 1, 2 can be right in some, at some point, but not always. So we have to be flexible, keeping in mind our larger commitment towards the SDG and all. So I think as a person who as an organization who works closely with the implementing organization, that these are 3 or 4 points which we take into consideration. And these are the points which guides us internally as well as externally also.
I'll quickly turn to Nandita. We have probably about 10 more minutes left, but Nandita Ben, both Salim and Mr. Sampath Kumar spoke about building that evidence, and you have one DIB running with Kevalia as well. So in that sense, given the impact of COVID, given the way, you know, we are understanding the learning ecosystem, how do you think these kinds of innovations will really help increase the, you know, the reach and of our programs?
थैंक यू सोनाली. डेटा ये बता रहा है, अभी हम 1 लाख से भी ज्यादा पेरेंट्स के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं. हम काफी बच्चों के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, हम लोग वॉलंटियर के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, हम लोग टीचर के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं. तो डेटा अभी ये बता रहा है कि अगर टीचर एंड कम्युनिटी दोनों साथ में अगर हम ला सकते हैं, वो चेंज मैनेजमेंट अगर हम कर सकते हैं. अभी क्या है कि बहुत गैप है कम्युनिटी एंड स्कूल के बीच में, एक पूरा ब्रिज बना हुआ है. और हमने ये कोविड सिचुएशन में देखा कि किस तरीके से हम स्कूल को कम्युनिटी के अंदर लेके आए. और कम्युनिटी या टीचर की जो अभी करंट कैपेबिलिटी है, उसके साथ मिलके हम क्या इनोवेटिव आइडिया लेके जा सकते हैं. मैंने अभी ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग का आपको एग्जांपल भी दिया. तो सबसे पहले हमने 2 इनोवेशन में आपको बताऊं. जब मैंने फाउंडेशन लर्निंग का बात कहा या अर्ली चाइल्डहुड के बारे में जो हमने कैंपेन चलाया उसका बात कहा, तो हमने सबसे पहले हम कैंपेन लेके गए थे घर पे स्कूल, मम्मी पापा मेरे टीचर. और आशा वर्कर के थ्रू, आंगनवाड़ी टीचर के थ्रू, वॉलंटियर के थ्रू किस तरीके से व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बना के हम पेरेंट्स को तैयार कर रहे हैं कि वो बच्चे को मिनी प्रोजेक्ट करे बच्चे के साथ, वो किस तरीके से पढ़ाए, सोशल इमोशनल उनके साथ लर्निंग के ऊपर बात हुआ और बच्चों तक कैसे लेके जाए. दूसरा हमने जो 4-5 महीने बाद हमें लगा कि अभी थोड़ा बच्चे की सेफ्टी है कि वो गली मोहल्ले में जा सकते हैं, तो हमने मोहल्ले में स्कूल करके कॉन्सेप्ट निकाला. भैया दीदी हमारे टीचर गली मोहल्ले में स्कूल, और वहां पे हम लोग ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग अप्रोच लेके गए. अभी तक ये डेटा है, वहां पे बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं. अगर आप हमारी वेबसाइट पे देखोगे तो वॉलंटियर है, वो अपना एक्सपीरियंस वहां पे शेयर कर रहे हैं. बच्चों का इंटरनल असेसमेंट हो रहा है जहाँ पे बच्चों का डेवलपमेंट दिख रहा है. तो ये इनोवेशन है ब्लेंडेड लर्निंग का जो हम लेके गए हैं. साथ में हमने ये भी देखा क्योंकि ऑनलाइन अप्रोच था, तो टीचर जो थे उनका टेक्निकली वो साउंड नहीं कर रहे थे, वो डर रहे थे. तो सबसे पहले हमने टीचर के साथ, मिडल मैनेजर के साथ, 3000 प्लस मिडल मैनेजर के साथ तकनीकी साला करके प्रोजेक्ट चलाया, जहाँ पे हमने उनको सिखाया कि किस तरीके से आप यूट्यूब सिंपल ऑडियो वीडियो मटेरियल यूज कर सकते हो. तो तकनीकी साला करके प्रोजेक्ट चलाया. उसके बाद हमने जो प्रोजेक्ट चलाया वो है ई गुरु शिष्य, जहाँ पे किस तरीके से हम व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप के थ्रू, जैसे जिसमें सेस्मिटी पार्ट है, हम पेरेंट्स तक पहुंच सकते हैं, किस तरीके से टीचर पहुंच सकता है. उसके बाद हमने वर्चुअल फील्ड सपोर्ट खड़ा किया, जैसे कॉल सेंटर होते हैं उस तरीके से एजुकेशन कॉल सेंटर खड़े किए. जो हमारा एक करुणा फेलोशिप है, वहाँ पे लोकल महिलाएं होती है, जो लोकल महिलाएं उस पर जुड़ती है और उसमें उनकी पेडागोजिकल कोई भी क्वेरी हो वो उन तक आती है और वो उनको व्हाट्सएप पे उसका आंसर देती है, वो रिप्लाई करती है, हम वो बच्चे तक पहुंचते हैं. यहाँ वो बच्चे को हम टीचर के साथ कनेक्ट करते हैं. और जो मैंने आखिरी में जो बोला कि कम्युनिटी में किस तरीके से हमने लीडर्स ढूंढे, तो ये इनोवेशन है. और ऑफलाइन ऑनलाइन जो 900 आवर्स का जो करिकुलम हमने बनाया है वो हम उन तक लेके गए. साथ में मैं थोड़ा एनईपी के ऊपर भी फोकस करना चाहती हूँ कि करंट जो सीन है, एनईपी जो बोल रहा है, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी 2020 जो बोल रही है, वो वैसे तो सारे जो चैप्टर है वो इम्पोर्टेंट है, लेकिन अगर हम कोविड सिनारियो देखें तो जो इम्पोर्टेंट है, अगर हम चाहते हैं कि जो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल है उसको हम मीट करें, जहाँ पे चैप्टर 4 में ये कहा गया है कि किस तरीके से 4.2 में ये कहा गया है कि किस तरीके से हर एक बच्चे का क्वालिटी एजुकेशन मिलेगा और हर एक बच्चे तक शिक्षा कैसे पहुंचेगी, वो कोई भी शिक्षा से वंचित नहीं होगा. लेकिन करंट सिनारियो में अभी हम फोकस कर रहे हैं जो इनोवेशन कहा उसके साथ, जो एनईपी का चैप्टर है 1, 4, 6.7 एंड 7, क्योंकि जब हम इनोवेशन लेके जाते हैं तब करंट सिनारियो एनवायरनमेंट भी हमें देखना पड़ेगा. ये सारे चैप्टर हमें बोल रहे हैं कि किस तरीके से फाउंडेशन लर्निंग पे फोकस करना है, किस तरीके पे इसी में अर्ली लिटरेसी, अर्ली न्यूमरेसी पे फोकस करना है, रेमिडियल क्लासेस किस तरीके से मिनिमाइज करने हैं, किस तरीके से इफेक्टिव गवर्नेंस सिस्टम बनाना है क्लस्टर लेवल पे, कम्युनिटी पार्टनरशिप को किस तरीके से कम्युनिटी ओनरशिप तक लेके जाना है, एंड किस तरीके से मिडिल मैनेजर एंड टीचर्स जो है उसका कैपेसिटी बिल्ड करना है। तो ये सारे जो एनईपी के मुझे लगता है अभी क्विक रिक्वायर्ड है, ये सारे जो चैप्टर है उसके ऊपर हम फोकस करके इनोवेटिव आइडिया लेके जा सकते हैं। एनईपी में एक स्पेशल एजुकेशन जोन करके भी बताया गया है कि वो कैसे हम स्पेशल एजुकेशन जोन बनाए। तो हम लोग ऑलरेडी बिफोर कोविड डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन स्कूल करके स्पेशल एजुकेशन जोन पे काम कर रहे हैं। 28 डिस्ट्रिक्ट में हमारे पास 5000 डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन स्कूल है। तो उसको कैसे मॉडल बनाए, वो सारा रिसोर्स, सारी लर्निंग, सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक साथ में कैसे आ सकते हैं जहाँ पे हम एक मॉडल बनाए। और एनईपी जो 4 स्टेज बोल रही है, प्री प्राइमरी, प्री प्राइमरी का जो स्टेज है, उसके बाद है प्रिपरेटरी है, फिर मिडल है और अपर है। फिलहाल जरूरत है, जो लर्निंग लॉस हुआ है, सबसे पहले हम 2 स्टेज है, प्री प्राइमरी एंड स्टैंडर्ड 1 to 5 जो प्रिपरेटरी स्टेज है, उसको कैसे साथ में अलाइन करें, उसको एक ही साथ एक स्कूल कैंपस में या एक ही प्रीमाइसिस में लेके जाए। वो स्पेशल एजुकेशन जोन में किस तरीके से हम रिसोर्सेस डालें, शेयर्ड रिसोर्सेस हो, वहां पे लाइब्रेरी अच्छी हो, वहां पे सब्जेक्ट टीचर हो, तो उस तरीके से हम साथ में सब कुछ लेके आए। और साथ में मिलकर अगर हम ये बोले, जैसे यहाँ पे आपने फंडिंग के बारे में भी पूछा था, तो यहाँ पे अभी क्या हो रहा है, कोई एक है जो बोल रहे हैं कि हम ये 200 स्कूल को फंड करेंगे, कोई ये बोल रहा है ये 200 स्कूल को फंड करेंगे। लेकिन क्या ये हो सकता है कि हम साथ में मिलकर ये बोले कि स्पेशल एजुकेशन जोन है, ये डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन स्कूल है, जहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट भी फोकस कर रही है, अलग अलग नाम से आदर स्कूल, मॉडल स्कूल, वो साथ में मिलके हम सब भी उसी में जुट जाए। और वो जो डेमो स्कूल है उस पे हम इस तरीके की स्कूल बनाए जहाँ पे 20% ऑफ पॉपुलेशन जो बच्चों की है वो उसी में आ जाए, और सबसे पहले उस पे हम कुछ चेंज लाके दिखाए। और ऑफ कोर्स उस पे हम स्टूडेंट लर्निंग आउटकम हमारे लिए सबसे पहला है, और हम लोग साथ में मिलके एक इम्पैक्ट बॉन्ड साइन करें कि चलो हम साथ में मिलके ये करते हैं। तो यही बीस है। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू नमिता बहन। टाइम तो बीता जा रहा है। मैं मुझे बोला गया था थोड़ा आपका संक्षेप में बताए अंग्रेजी में कि आपने क्या बोला है। I'll just say it in 2 lines. Nandita is basically focused on 2 things during COVID. How did they take education and bridge the gap between school and community and parents? That was a very big focus. And now as we exit this, the COVID scenario, there are certain chapters in the NEP that give us guidance, particularly in creating a more structured approach, engaging the community, but taking your resources to what she describes as a virtually like an education zone where you can put it in, versus running around like in a disaggregate way, supporting 200, 500 schools. Let's do it in a collaborative way. I'll actually give the last word to Sukhna because I feel that, I'll not do my closure because I'd really like to hear from the panelists. Sukhna, while we understand that there has been a great role of parents during COVID, but going forward, I just want you to reflect on this bit a little more, because again, we'll go into thinking about only school, different kinds of structural mechanisms of making children learn, and parents will have to go back to work, etc. But given the learning loss, how critical is the role of parents? And I'd really like you to pull all of this together. We have talked about government, we have talked about funding organizations, we have talked about what nonprofits can do, collaborations, but in all of this, ultimately there's a child and a parent. Just as we close this session, really to bring us back to that point, to allow us to appreciate and empathize with the two of them as we plan our funding design, as we plan our programs. Last word to you, Sukhna.
Thanks. So, Shonali, role of parents is now more important than ever. We've seen, how the COVID times have been. There's been a complete thrust on shift of responsibility towards the parents, and it is important to build their capacity. When I talk and when we've spoken about so many things, I think from a government point of view, from a top level point of view, it is very important to acknowledge this as well, that learning does not happen only in school or Anganwadi setting. Beyond, it extends to the house of the child, where the parents and the caregivers, and I'll stress on caregivers, it is not just the parent who is aiding in learning. This parent, who is the child with when the parent is not around, could be the grandparents, could be the elder siblings. all of them are contributing towards the learning of the child. It is therefore very important that we reach out to them, build their capacity, support them, and role of technology has also increased. I won't say it replaces the parent or the caregiver or the teacher, but it surely helps in supplementing learning. It surely helps in increasing the learning engagement time via different, a different way that would attract the child towards it. Use of technology is therefore very important. And another thing that, we've spoken about various approaches, a play-based approach, which is extremely important to engage children, to get them back to school. Along with it, there are different approaches which are also required and become the need of the hour to make sure that children and the disparity in the learning levels is addressed. I'll start with something like a simple, a shift in the way the assessments happen, a shift in the way that the instruction is given out, the learning assessments, the kind of groupings that are made in the class. How would you deal with a group of similar aged children who have come from a very different background, who have been exposed to very different or none, opportunities for learning? They are probably at a different ladder altogether of learning and where they stand at it. When we go back to the school setup, one thing is to definitely be sure that, the traditional model of 8:30 to 5 o'clock, or for the younger children the lesser hours, they're probably not going to stay. That normalcy, or the traditional school day so coveted for its normalcy and the contribution it had towards families and community, that is not going to be the way it is. So we have to be open to a more resilient, a more flexible and responsive approach. We also have to be open to a different pedagogical way of looking at which would include multi-age groupings and organizing children in different forms, at peer-to-peer learning and multi-age grouping and things like that, where children learn from each other. So you have that entire ecosystem which is targeted towards helping children overcome, bridge the learning loss, move ahead. And that would include the parents, that would include the peers, that would include the teachers, Anganwadi workers, etc. So we have to look at it in a way that we have to revolutionize the traditional systems in terms of pedagogy and in terms of involving the parents to a greater extent in the child's learning.
Thank you, Sukhna. I think our time is up. So let me just take 30 seconds to thank each of my panelists personally. It's been really a pleasure to host you. You've all added from your wisdom, experience, and learning to make this panel really hopefully useful to a lot of the people who will listen to it, take away learning that they can then use. So thank you, Mr. Sampath Kumar, Shruti, Salim, Nandita, and Sukhna for really making this conversation sort of meaningful and hopefully useful to many of us. So thank you once again. And last point is that this age group, foundational learning, really requires this attention. Children will not just catch up. It will, we cannot just hope that these children will somehow grow up and learn everything. So thank you, everyone, and back to AVPN.
Thank you all for that very engaging session and for surfacing such important points. What really stuck with me is the findings from the Azim Premji report that 92% of children have experienced a learning loss. I think this really reinforces the importance of having such conversations. So thank you again to all the panelists. We have now come to the end of this session. This session is made possible with the kind support of our festival partners, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Sesame Workshop India, the Rockefeller Foundation, #COVID Action Collab, VNV Advisory Services, the British Asian Trust, WPP India, CSR Foundation, Catalyst Management Services Private Limited, and Sadva. To continue chatting with your speakers and fellow delegates in this session, please make full use of the messaging and the meeting function of our festival platform. Do share your highlights of this session on social media, and remember to tag us using the hashtag AVPN South Asia 2021 and hashtag social impact. Up next, the session on building entrepreneurs of tomorrow, soft skills for employability will be starting at 6:10 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you again, and please enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you.